started to work for Nigel, and obviously you did business with Don King. I mean,
Yeah.
that must be
Yeah, it's actually
astonishing experience. I mean, is he? How
Look,
do you do business with
Don
him?
King is good to do business with if you know how to do business with Don King. Like, I'm going back 30 years, 27 years now. Right, I was with Nigel. After the Eubank draw, before the fight, on the contract it stated if we win, we have to do, or lose, we have a free fight deal with Don King.
Yeah.
But nothing was put in the contract about a draw.
The draw, yeah.
So the contract then became nil and void. So after that, I said to Nigel, look, Barry Hearn tried to rip us off. Before the day of the fight, I get a message from a reporter, journalist, Pete, come and see me. Now, I'm not going to mention his name because he's a nice man and he's still active.
Yeah.
So it'd be wrong for me to name him.
Yes.
He said to me, Pete, I'm going to give you a bit of advice. He said, I've been told by very good source they've not paid the sanction fees for the WBO belt.
Yes.
So if you win, you ain't getting a WBO belt. So I said, no, this fight's for both belts.
Yes.
They've gone, no, Pete, if he hasn't, Barry Hearn hasn't paid the sanction fees.
Yes.
So I went in, ain't he? Right. So I went in and I got hold of John Morris, who was the head of the British Boxing Board of Control. So I said, John, can I have a word with you? And it was packed in this place. So I said, John, have a word. So I was going, I've heard that Barry Hearn hasn't paid the sanction fees on the WBO belt. So he said, yeah, that's right, Peter. There's only the WBC on the line. I said, there's no fight tomorrow. I'm cancelling it.
Yeah.
I said, let me just say this to you plain and simple, John. We either sort this out here and now, or there will not be a fight tomorrow night. And I said, if I go back to Nigel Benn and tell Nigel what's happened,
Yes.
and he says no, there's no fight tomorrow, which he will do, because I know Nigel, not a brother, I know him.
Yeah.
I said, if he says no, there's no fight, he won't change his mind.
No.
I said to John King, I said, right, I'm going to give you a letter. I said, £10,000 will be paid to the WBO.
Yeah.
And I signed it as his licence manager. They accepted it because I'm the licence manager.
Yeah.
So I gave him a letter, and he gave me a letter saying that both belts are up. Otherwise, we would have never rented that ring. And that'd have been 48,000 people not getting a fight.
And was that the reason then that you got rid of Hearn?
That's why I sacked him at the end of the night. Yeah. No, what happened was, he came to me, he said, I'm just going to walk Chris Eubank out. He said, then I'll come back and get Nigel. I said, I said, I've got Frank walking him out. He said, Frank Warren? I said, yeah. He said, why? I said, because I'm going to be doing business with him from now on. I said, I don't want you no more. I said, you're sacked.
Yeah.
He said, what do you mean sacked? Why? I said, because of what happened with the WBO belt. I said, you never paid the sanction fees. You tried to rip us off so that then Chris would be able to fight the number 2 for it.
How did he take it?
Well, he didn't like it, obviously. But after the fight, when I told Nigel, I said, I've sacked Barry Hearn. He said, what are you talking about? You sacked Barry Hearn. I said, I don't want him around us no more.
Yeah.
And I told him what happened, and he went, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And then the next Monday, we went and met Frank.
Yeah.
We met him up London at Hyde Park in a hotel, and we sat there and had a bit of a chat and all that, and we went and done a deal with Frank Warren. I flew over to Miami, and I done a deal with Don King.
Tell us about Don King. I mean,
I flew over to Miami.
Him and all of that.
He sent a limousine for the airport with me, put $5,000 in an envelope, $5,000. He went, this was on the Friday I arrived, and he went, right, I'll see you Monday in my office, enjoy your weekend. He put me in a nice hotel. You can imagine what he's done, laid it all on. Anyway, so I've gone in his office on the Monday, and this is to do a 7-fight deal, right, for £4.9 million.
Oh, great.
So I've sat in his office, each seven fights, 700 grand each fight. This is 30 years ago, 4.9 million.
Yeah.
So sat there, and he put these fights out, and he goes, these are fights. I'm going to leave them blank, he said, and then when we get a fighter, if you agree, we'll sign each deal. So I said, yeah. But before I sign each one of these papers, I said, there's 2 things that have got to change.
Yeah.
He said, what's that? I said, well, number 1, they've got to be on British Boxing Board of Control paper. I'm not signing Don King paper. I said, you ain't tying me up in the courts in America for 5 years. Do you understand? And we can't fight.
Yeah.
I said, they're on British Boxing Board of Control papers, number 1. I said, because Nigel won't ever sign these on Don King papers.
Yes.
I said, these have got to be signed by Nigel and witnessed by me as his manager. So I said, that's number 1.
Yeah.
I said, and number 2, I said, on every single 7 fight deals, these fights must state, these contracts must state, these fights do not include Roy Jones Jr., Michael Nunn or James Toney. They are separate negotiations, and they've got to be signed and witnessed by you and me on each one of these papers.
Yeah. Well, was there a particular reason that you didn't want Nigel against those fighters?
Well, the reason was they were worth a lot more money than 700 grand for starters. I mean, I mean, he said to me about fighting Roy Jones Jr. I said, I'll fight Roy Jones Jr., but I want £6 million.
Yeah.
At the time, I wanted £6 million to fight Roy Jones Jr. He could have the belt for £6 million because Nigel could have retired with £6 million back in them days, so it didn't really matter. He'd coming to basically the end anyway.
Yes.
So I said, yeah. And then he said, no, we'll fight Michael Nunn for 600 grand, not 700. He wanted to change it to 600 grand to fight Michael Nunn. I said, we're not fighting Michael Nunn. Big, tall, 6'1", lanky southpaw. Who wants to fight him?
Yeah.
Holds the centre of the ring and jab move out of the way. Nigel wouldn't get near him.
Yeah.
It'd be a points win probably at the time.
Yes.
For Michael Nunn.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he was at the time he was Don King's blue-eyed boy.
Yeah.
He loved Michael Nunn.
Yeah. So you managed to get out of that.
So I mean, how difficult is it to negotiate that with the sort of king of negotiators?
Well, you've got to be smart with him. Like, for instance, I also stipulated that these fights, 30 days prior to the contest, I set up what they call an irrevocable letter of credit.
Oh, I remember. Yes, yeah.
So 30 days prior to the contest, he had to pay the 700 grand into a suspense account in our bank. Right, they set up a suspense account. What happens is on the Saturday when Nigel fights, as soon as the first bell rings, he's got no access to that money again. But the interest that it makes over the period of 30 days has to go back to his account. But the basic 700 on the Monday morning, as soon as the bank opens, it's transferred immediately into Nigel's account. He can't touch it. That's how I got away with it. So I had 30 days before the fight to stop. If he didn't pay it, I didn't have to turn up for the fight.
So you were with Nigel what for 5 years?
91 to 97, in total.
And was maybe the big fight in that the Gerald McClellan fight?
I get a phone call from Frank Warren saying Don King wants us to fight Michael Nunn. So I said, that ain't happening. Ain't happening. Don't want Michael Nunn. No. So he said, right, if we don't fight Michael Nunn, this is what he said after. He said, if we don't fight Michael Nunn, he's going to send Gerald McClellan over. He's going to get him ranked #1 at the next WBC convention. He's going to get him put in #1 position from middleweight champion up to super middle. And he's going to bring him over here, take our title off us, and then take it back, and he'll fight Michael Nunn. And then the winner of that fights Roy Jones Jr. That's what Don King had in plan all along. But obviously I didn't know that at the time. Only afterwards it's come out. So I've gone, well, I will speak to Nigel. And he said, tell him to bring him. He said, I'm not fighting Gerald McClellan. He said, bring him. So once he got that in his head, Nigel's very much like myself. The only difference between me and Nigel is there's limits to where you'll go. His limit is there and mine is there. You understand? That's the only two difference. He's a fighter like myself and he's a street fighter like myself. But there's limits. His limit is there, and mine is there, and that's the difference. And so he listened to me, and he knew I was smart. But anyway, they said they're going to bring Gerald McClellan over, so we said, "Fucking bring him." And that's the situation. We brought him over. And they
were you worried about that fight?
Nah. No. I tell you what, I've never seen Nigel train for a fight apart from the Eubank 2 than he did for the Gerald McClellan fight. He started really cutting down his weight and bringing it down slowly from the November, and he didn't fight till the February.
Probably the greatest British fight, wasn't it? Really?
A lot of people have said since the Conor Benn situation, Nigel must have been on gear when he fought McClellan. That's not Nigel Benn.
No.
He feared nobody, no matter what. As he wouldn't have took the fight, he could have had Michael Nunn and lost on points and gone, well, what can I do? He ran all night. It was quite easy. You know what I'm saying? I mean, everybody had Nigel to get beat by McClellan anyway. I don't think anybody had him winning.
No. I mean, I don't know if there's something you wanted to talk about. I mean, I did see an interview where you didn't have a great deal of sympathy for McClellan.
No, I haven't. No, I haven't, because of what happened. The way he treated us and the way he treated Nigel's dad, the way he treated everybody around us, like we were just nothing, and he was the main man. You know, going back to Nigel quickly before I jump back onto what you just spoke about. All I know is this, and I will say this, and I'm not a liar because I don't fear no one, so I don't have to lie. I've never seen Nigel Benn take any drugs away from sport. I've seen him take vitamins, and if there was something in amongst them vitamins, I wouldn't know about it because I wasn't a trainer myself. I didn't go to gymnasiums. I'm just a normal person. So for people to say, "Oh, Pete, you must have known," no, I didn't know. If he took anything, he must have slipped it in with his vitamins because I didn't see or understand that side of it. So because I'm not a drug taker myself, I never have took drugs. Towards the end of his career, he started smoking more, not drugs, but smoking cigarettes at camp. And I thought, what the fuck are you doing? You know, having a fag. But with regards to him taking cocaine, steroids and all that, I've never seen him do that ever. And I don't believe that's in him.
Yeah.
He wasn't frightened of nobody or nothing.
So you weren't, you weren't very happy with McClellan?
No, what happened, he came over.
Yeah.
And we was at a press conference, and I've got the CDs here if you ever want to borrow them.
Yeah.
I've got the CDs of all the press conferences.
Yeah.
And he turned around, he said, when I finish putting you in a wheelchair, I'm going to put your dad in a wheelchair.
Really?
This is what he was saying. Yeah, I'm going to knock him out he won't go 3 rounds.
Yeah.
I'm going to knock him out. He ain't going 3 rounds. Well, that's fine to say that. But then he started going, I'm going to put you in a wheelchair and all that. And and then he's going to his dad, and when I finish putting your son in a wheelchair, I'm going to put you in a wheelchair. I've got it all on CD now.
Yeah.
And I thought, you Murphy, gobby, so-and-so, there's no need for that.
Yeah.
Let's get it on and make the best man win. You think you're tough. Nigel knows he's tough.
Yeah.
So I know Nigel's tough, and I know Nigel's in the best shape of his life.
Yes.
And I knew if it went past 3 or 4 or 5 rounds, he's in trouble.
Yeah.
Because Nigel hits like a donkey kicks. I know McClellan's a big puncher, but at 160. And also I knew that Nigel struggled from 160 to 168.
Yeah.
When he went up to 168, he didn't have the same power at the time. All the guys that Nigel knocked out at 168 were all 160 fighters moving up. But McClellan, what an horrible pig.
Yeah. Did Nigel feel any sympathy afterwards?
No, he didn't. Not afterwards. No. It's only now. Obviously, since Nigel helped him, I think the pressure that got put on him. I honestly believe this. I believe that if Nigel didn't do what he did and help McClellan in the end, I don't think the public would have accepted him now. He's coming back after 27 years and still earning a living, going in clubs and pubs and boxing matches and venues.
Yeah. Well,
because the public love him.
Yes.
Because he was a warrior. Don't get me wrong. But it's also a smart move along the way.
Yes. Yeah.
By helping McClellan, the public gone, well, look, at least he helped him.
Yes.
Whereas if he'd done nothing and said, like I do, I'm very straight. I don't give a fuck. I don't like the geezer.
No.
I don't care that he's at home like that.
No.
Because if it was me, I'd have done the same, and I didn't care afterwards.
Well, it's such a brutal business anyway, boxing. That's
kind
of the thing.
Listen, at the end of the day, I learned to tell the truth. Don't worry about what anyone else. If they don't like me for it, I don't care.